Shortly after the failure of the MOA-80 signing in Malaysia in August last year, armed conflicts between the government troops and some members of the Moro Islamic Liberation Front erupted in parts of Danao del Norte, North Cotabato, Maguindanao, and Sarangani, leaving more than 300,000 persons, or more than 68,700 families displaced as of December 2008. Some of these families have been born witness to more than 3 long decades of conflict in Mindanao. Will these families take courage to return and rebuild their homes? Will they enjoy their rights as IDPs or internally displaced persons? Moreover, the decades of displacement in Mindanao should allow us to look beyond relief and rehabilitation and rather focus on something that will probably answer the simple question: what will we do when we get home? Today in Talk Mindanao, we are going to probe into the essential component of the United Nations Development Program's Early Recovery Program and what it hopes to offer to those who are most affected by these recent conflicts. Also later, we'll also be joined by Mindanao advocates in peace and development, whom we will be engaging in a discussion on Mindanao concerns. From the Appleview Hotel in Davao City, I'm Ethel Constantino. Join me in the new season of the only television program on Mindanao. Here we encourage people from the movers and shakers of our island to the ordinary Mindanaoan to speak on and speak for Mindanao. You are watching Talk Mindanao. Welcome back to Talk Mindanao here at the Appleview Hotel in Davao City. When conflict arises or natural disasters happen, relief and rehabilitation has always been our answer to crisis. However, studies conducted by the UNDP show that there is a gap between relief and rehab works that needs to be addressed. Thus, the term early recovery was coined to serve as that essential phase that would substantiate the relief and rehabilitation efforts for the internally displaced people in Mindanao. For us to get an overview of the early recovery program, let's watch this.
During and after times of crisis, immediate needs of those affected like food and shelter are addressed first. However, the United Nations Development Program, or UNDP, revealed in its studies that an essential component in the relief and rehabilitation efforts must be considered, wherein planning for long-term development of the affected communities is emphasized. This transition phase is called early recovery. According to UNDP, early recovery is a multidimensional process of recovery that begins in the post-disaster response or humanitarian relief setting immediately following a natural disaster or armed conflict. It includes the restoration of basic services, livelihoods, shelter, governance, security and rule of law, environment and social dimensions, including the return of displaced people to their communities. More importantly, it aims to foster self-reliance of affected communities and restore the human dignity and confidence of the internally displaced persons, or IDPs, and to address their psychosocial as well as basic needs. The priorities of early recovery includes transitional shelters, provision of technical and small-scale construction material to help build back shelters, and cash for work programs to address the employment, livelihood, and agriculture concerns. Along this line is the strengthening of security, or the local government's capacity to investigate and redress human rights violations. This is to empower IDPs to actively participate in decision-making processes. While early recovery augments the basic needs of those affected by the conflict and, more importantly, achieve a long-term impact of relief and rehabilitation, the collaboration of various efforts on the ground through convergence approach is crucial to its success. All these efforts are needed to be able to restore the dignity of the IDPs as they go back to their respective places to rebuild their communities.
Welcome back to Talk Mindanao. I am Ethel Constantino from the Apple View Hotel in Davao City. Joining us for today's discussion, we have the Area Manager for Western Mindanao, Act for Peace, Mr. James Ali Abdul. Thank you for joining us today, sir. And of course, we also have with us Carlos Cerezo, the Area Technical Assistant, South Central Mindanao, former relief and rehab specialist for UN Volunteers Philippines. Thank you so much for coming over. I need to travel like 12 hours from Zamboanga to Davao City just to make it to Talk Mindanao today. Welcome to Talk Mindanao. First, I would like to ask you, sir, can you tell us your experience before we will discuss on the early rehab concept?
Thank you very much, Ethel, for this opportunity to share to the viewers on the Act for Peace contribution to relief and rehabilitation. In our experience, we provide the program is augmenting support to the IDPs affected by the armed conflict and even disasters by providing the basic services or components such as the food and non-food items to the evacuees. And then we also provide protection in terms of camp management, organizing, and some sort of shelter assistance, temporary camps for the IDPs.
Yeah, your area is in North Cotabato.
Yes.
Can you tell us your experience in North Cotabato, sir?
In the recent conflict in North Cotabato, the program provided relief assistance and goods to the IDPs because these communities are sometimes host communities to the IDPs coming from different provinces. And the program provided food and non-food items, medicines, latrines, and that is in close coordination with the government agencies and including international organizations and local NGOs.
Thank you for that. To Mr. James Abdul, I believe that the early recovery program is very new to Mindanao, but I would like to know, how did you come up with such a concept?
Yes, before that, let me just say, consistent with the program goal of peace building, any interventions at the ground will always be linked to that peace building. So early recovery is geared towards that primarily. We're looking at, because this will answer also the question of not recurring, answer the question like the recurrence of conflict. Be it disaster or man-made conflict. So we take that into considerations. So early recovery would look into that primarily, and it will also serve as a transition phase from what Carly was saying, that relief phase to a more sustainable long-term development for the IDPs.
Okay, so how early is the early recovery program?
Actually, before we go into that, let me just describe the process to get into that. Early recovery would really involve participation of the IDPs. So when we look at the question of the root causes of conflict, because this is really preventing it, the people will be, primarily the IDPs, will be, and all stakeholders will be involved in
the
analyzing the root cause of the problem and planning and giving solutions into that. And we have to undergo post-conflict needs analysis, and this will be inputted by the IDPs themselves. And the stakeholders, particularly the local government units, will also be really the key actors here. Will be involved, like in Munay, they have actually undergone a process of looking at their vision, mission, goal in forming their interventions for the whole of 26 barangays of Munay, and they realize when they look at the problems, they realize that the local government unit is actually lacking in providing services to the IDPs. And the questions of law and order, the questions of security, and the questions of livelihood when the IDPs will go back to their barangays.
Okay, for Mr. Carlos, because there is a need for the community to participate in order for them to have the ownership of whatever program that will be implemented in the area. So far, in your area in North Cotabato, what is the reception of the IDPs?
going back to the discussion from the gap from emergency response to rehabilitation, the first question would be, if this continues, the people living in the evacuation center, the question would be, can these people or even the resources sustain the needs of these IDPs? No?
Yeah.
So that's primarily that put the program to rethink of other strategy to which the main objective is how to restore the dignity and pride of the evacuees while
And their confidence as well.
confidence, yes, before we talk of going back to the respective places of origin and talk about rehabilitation and development in these areas.
So, have you been so far successful in trying to convince the community and other stakeholders to cooperate in order for them to come up with a very good planning for the IDPs?
Yeah, for instance, the call in the early recovery is really convergence of efforts. No? And we have managed actually to even introduce the concept to RDCC, all the line agencies, because the concept is also new to them. This is the first time here in Mindanao to be implemented.
Okay, we will talk about that more.
Okay.
But before we take a break, Talk Mindanao visited the municipality of Munay in Lanao del Norte, where 23 out of 26 barangays were gravely hit by the 2008 conflicts. Let's take a look at this.
Around 55 kilometers from Iligan is a small and quiet municipality of Munay. Rough roads leading to the area make the travel time of 1.5 hours more challenging. With a total land area of 21,218 hectares, 3,937 households, or a total population of 20,594 live in Munay, who mostly depend on copra, ginger, and corn as sources of livelihood. Reaching the town center, one can see it almost cloistered, surrounded by vast mountain ranges. Munay's calmness was disturbed due to the recent conflict last August 2008, wherein 23 out of the 26 barangays were gravely affected.
Abot sa among mga lugar nga mo operasyon ang mga sundalo, mahadlok mi sa para pagpinusilay.
From August 22 to 28, an estimated 2,150 families flocked to the evacuation site in the poblacion of Tambo. Schooling was stopped for 6 months to accommodate some of the evacuees, while the municipal health center was converted to a mini hospital to cater to patients that increased in number. With the gravity of the situation in Munay, it has been identified as a pilot community where the early recovery program has been implemented, augmenting relief and rehabilitation efforts.
Program sama sa early recovery program nag-introduce sa ACTO-PIS, susunod kami sa UNDP. Ito tayo ang impact, especially sa mga internal displaced persons.
To address immediate needs of the community, medical equipments and medicines were readily made available. Temporary shelters were built up and basic needs were provided for.
Ma-identify naman nato ang mga needs nila. Pariyan ng nadaot na ilang mga balay, ang ilang mga mais, ang ilang mga damage man.
Looking at the importance of long-term development of the affected communities like Munay, the ER program also makes possible the provision of trainings for new methods of farming that would help increase their production.
Okay na, mabalik mo dito, siyempre, among kinanglan, ang among pagsugod niya sa among pagpanginabuhi. Naikapital kinta na mong silbi puhunan nga kami makabakod.
Among the initiatives under the ER program is the Cash for Work program, which aims to augment livelihood.
10 days, magtrabaho sila sa ilang balay, tagaan sila 10 days na 200 each day, 14 days, 2,000, at least na sila yung
Building of transitional shelters for the displaced persons was also prioritized as one of the initiatives under the ER program.
Ang balay, siyempre, nagubang-uban na. Di, kailangan din makakuanan, sabihan kay tip, isang balik ko na.
Building materials were also provided for the construction of new homes of the IDPs. To put these plans into action and to sustain the initial relief and rehab efforts through the early recovery program, convergence is needed.
If we do it alone, we cannot really cope. Mas effective man good kung there is a convergence efforts from different sectors. Meet na mo ang among needs in rendering services to the people.
The Act for Peace program spearheaded the planning and rationalization of efforts for the implementation of the Early Recovery Program, with support of other agencies and sectors like the World Food Program, Red Cross, local government units, the church, and civil society sectors.
Isa yun sa development sa Early Recovery Program, sa pag-united sa mga different sector para magtinabangay lang, magtulong-tulungan lang to promote peace and order.
With all these efforts underway, it is hoped that the communities and the people affected by the recent conflicts will ultimately restore their dignity and rebuild their lives.
You're still watching Talk Mindanao from the Apple View Hotel here in Davao City. And a while ago, we were able to see the current situation in Munay, in Lanao del Norte, which is actually the pilot community for the program on early recovery. And we continue to discuss with our guests still with the area manager for Western Mindanao, Mr. James Ali Abdul and Mr. Carlos Cerezo. And as we continue our discussions, I would like to give emphasis on the collaboration between the LGUs and the IDPs in order to make this program very successful. What are the trainings that we need to train our LGUs for them to really come up with a very good planning for the IDPs?
Yes. As we said before, the target really of early recovery is also to restore that dignity of IDPs, regaining that self-respect no, for them from just being dependent on relief. No? But that's part of the process. No? The more encompassing process is that the objective of really mainstreaming this framework into the practice of the local government unit, because the traditional practice is just giving and giving to the IDP.